in your role as president and CEO, that some of the responsibility in setting that tone and achieving that understanding falls on you? Like,
Oh,
I mean, it's
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Management at its essence is about alignment. And how do you get people aligned? You plan, and then how do you keep people on the plan? You interact, and so as CEO, you're the penultimate manager, and I'm involved in that all day, every day, making sure everybody's aligned, and the
yeah,
plans are in place, and it's a symphony. You've got to conduct the orchestra because
yeah.
it's complex music for sure.
Does that complexity and the need to align fall outside the four walls as well? Like, I've got to think that in a complex manufacturing environment like the one you're in, you've got dependence on a little ecosystem of partners. So
Oh,
tell me about that.
absolutely.
Like, how I guess the base question would be, how do the parts come together from a manufacturing perspective?
Yeah, in biotech, the rule is you work with contract development and manufacturer organizations because the technology is so rapidly evolving and so hyper specialized and so expensive for every company to develop internally that it's just impractical. So you're partnered with a very vibrant and broad, deep ecosystem in contract development and manufacturing and biotech.
Hmm.
In the device world, it's similar, but more flexibility. Sometimes you can do it internally, sometimes you can't. Uh, uh, but it truly is a lot of managing of very hyper specialized vendors that are doing the work, the very very complex work, and keeping them all aligned because not any one of them has the whole picture.
Hmm.
The molecule CMC folks have no idea about devices, nor should they. The device folks have no idea about the CMC. It's coordinating it all and keeping it aligned is what the management team does
Yeah.
day in day out. And then we do have internal things that when we can and when it makes sense, on just a regular kind of make buy. Do we internalize certain things? Sure, we do. But vast majority is managing outside specialty vendors.
Hmm. Yeah. We're running a bit short on time here, Eamon, but you're good for a couple more
Yeah, I
questions?
am. I am.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna a couple more questions, and we're gonna need to wrap things up and probably schedule a part two, and perhaps a part three, and perhaps a part four, because you're one of those interviews, Eamon, who like you make the job easy for the interviewer. I
Oh,
ask
thank you.
one question, and it's like winding you up and watching you go, which is great. Um, yeah, but the third part of that Venn diagram, I'm a little bit curious about the procedural part. What are I guess, what's the strategy? What are the plans for sort of clinical procedural application, given that we're talking about, a unique device, a unique combination of therapeutics, a unique mechanism of action, multiple mechanistic elements to the drugs mechanism. So just give me some, I guess, forward-looking statements around what the plan might be there to actually execute in the clinic, let's say beyond approval, beyond commercialization. How do we take this thing that no one's ever, practitioners haven't seen it before either?
Right, right. No, the procedure is as important as the drug or the device. And uh, in the uh, uh, in the clinical development program, the procedure is a tremendous um, aspect that has to be managed very, very carefully. And how we go about doing that is by proctoring every case in our clinical development program to
Mm.
varying degrees. So to get a site up and running in a prostate cancer trial, for instance, we need 3 PIs at every site. We need a urologist, we need an oncologist, and then we need an interventional radiologist. And the reason for that is depending on the approach taken to treat the patient, either intraprostate or treating a MET, The urologists are very skilled at treating prostates percutaneously. They do prostate biopsies all the time and brachytherapy and all kinds of things with transrectal ultrasound approach and transperineal access. So it's a home game for them. Once we teach them the procedural aspect of it, the urologist can certainly do that. But if the patient doesn't have a prostate, just has metastatic disease, then the MET has to be selected for each cycle of therapy, and that's typically CT guided, and that falls outside of the typical skill set for a urologist because they just don't have any need to be doing that. So we need the interventional radiologist at that point, who that's a home game for them. They can access anything from anywhere with CT guidance or any other guidance, and doing needle biopsies all the time. So, and then the oncologist is there to manage the complex post-op care that can be needed because of the immunotherapeutics. We're blessed so far in the clinical development programs that the toxicities have been grade 1 and 2, and very, very low toxicities with really high efficacy, which is in itself a paradigm change and a bit unprecedented. So, but the oncologists are really the only ones with the skill set to manage immunotherapy post-op and all the patient care required. So we need those 3 PIs. So for every case, we've got those 3 PIs there, and to varying degrees. So the urologist is there, the interventional radiologist is there, and the oncologist is sort of hovering, over the procedural aspect, make sure they understand what's going on. And in the room, we have our own urologist, interventional radiologist, a med-surg nurse, RT potentially, dual certified, who really is a jack of all trades procedurally. And then we have an engineer who knows the equipment inside out in case there's a problem with the equipment. And of course, the first case, it's a C1 where we have the proctors really helping, very, very, very intimate in instructing step by step by step. So we're trying to get to the see one, do one, teach one scenario of procedural learning in medicine.
Yeah. So
we keep the urologist, the interventional radiologist, and the nurse and the engineer there until the clinical team's basically doing it repeatedly without any real intervention. The urologist and the interventional radiologist then go to another site to get that up and running. But we leave the nurse and the engineer there permanently. They're there for every case as backup. So if anything goes wrong, and there are it's a busy place. These are typically academic medical centers, and the team might change. There may be a new nurse or a new tech or a new clinician who needs help. So there's a reason for our folks to be there. One, to recognize how well the team is trained, and if there's swap outs, to be alert to that and then get whatever we need there. But in clinical development, it's critically important to realize going in that Murphy is a close family relative, and Murphy's Law is going to apply, and what can go wrong will go wrong. So you've got to be there for every last case when there's a procedure involved. You may be you're hoping you're standing in the hallway bored because the clinical team's just crushing it. And that's a great problem to have. But, and that happens until it doesn't. And then you better be there and keep things going, because running the clinic, everything in these development programs is best accomplished by doing it right the first time, because the second time is incredibly expensive, and the data you've generated poorly is now a cross to bear that you have to overcome with better data. So the best way to prevent or to deal with problems, prevent them from happening by being very, very attentive all the way through. So once we get to commercialization, though, it's and I've done this many times in my career, it's a similar situation, but we're not running clinical trials anymore. these are practices, and it really comes down to see one, do, and teach one. And the good news is that urologists clinically know this technique inside out. I mean, this is a meat and potatoes foundational procedure for them. Same for the interventional radiologist. Same for the oncologist. Managing immunotherapeutic toxicities is their bread and butter. So
yeah,
it should be fine. And the reason there's such a disparate difference there is when you're developing a new therapy, the most important thing is developing the new therapy so patients can ultimately have broad access to it. And and when you're treating a patient, the most important thing is that patient. So it's a very different world when you get out into the commercial world. And if they don't follow the protocol because it's in the best interest of the patient, well, that's the practice of medicine, and that's absolutely appropriate. That's forbidden in clinical development. You got to stick to the protocol or have an amendment to the protocol because of a need. So you're really trying to do what's best to get it to millions of patients, and that can often be a tough decision that the sponsor needs to be a part of.
Yeah, very good. All right, so last question would be piggybacking off of that excellent and detailed clinical illustration that you just painted. What's next as far as clinical progress or milestones for Syncromune?
Yeah, we just announced our next trial IND approval. The FDA approved our trial, so that'll be starting at 5 sites in the U.S. We're planning on first patient in September, and that's in metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer. That trial will segue right into a phase 2 trial. So it's a phase 1b/2 trial now, and the agency's given us that go ahead. So we're off to the races. To that phase 2 trial will be registrational intent ultimately. So our clinical development pathways laid out. We've got we plan to add a basket trial for the drug we're having such great early success with in prostate cancer, the basket trial in other malignancies, other cancers. And this follows the path that Merck and BMS took for Opdivo and Keytruda to expand the indications with a basket trial. And when you see signals, you just go right to continue that trial to registration. So we're on a very well-paved road there. In parallel, we have another drug that we're pursuing for metastatic lung and breast, and that's in phase 1. We're very pleased with the progress there. Haven't announced anything yet. It's early, but once that data is ready, it'll go through a similar path that the prostate cancer did, and hopefully we're ready for next year's ASCO with that drug candidate in lung and breast, if not sooner, and that'll take on its own development pathway. So busy. Yeah,
busy, and we've well ascertained the complexity of this drug device combination business. Not for the faint of heart. It's clear to me after spending an hour plus with you now that your energy, enthusiasm, intellect, and experience are making you the right man for the job.
Well, thank you very much, man.
Yeah, and I have lots more questions for you. So we're going to schedule a part 2. We're going to get you back on.
Wonderful.
We're going to get you back on. But in the meantime, we got to wrap things up for now. And again, I just really appreciate having you on. It's a fascinating space that you're in, and I think there was a lot to be learned here on this episode for our listeners. So thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Have a great day. Thanks so much.